3, and yesterday was a little bit of a bust. The video stopped after 15 seconds, but I did get in 1.5 miles yesterday, which was pretty good. I had some other stuff to do, and well exceeded what I wanted, which was a mile. And yesterday was 1.5 miles. So that is out to 2 miles. So my plan is to go for 2 miles a day for now, at least through Thanksgiving, probably till the 1st of December, then try to up it to maybe 3. And slowly increase over the months until I have my surgery. I got a rod in my right leg 23 years ago. I was roller skating with my daughter, had a kindergarten school fundraiser, and twisted, got a spiral fracture. They put a rod down the leg through the fibula, never reattached the top of the tibia, causing me to, I'll say, fall a lot. Tibia is kind of like a control arm in a car, where it keeps the fibula from, so we say, torsioning. So my foot kind of, my left foot, which is fine, points generally in a straight direction. Hello? She's just getting up. One of the little neighbor girls, who's a friend of my 5-year-old granddaughter, who's my best friend in the world, just asked whether she could play. So, of course. So anyways, the tibia being detached at the top, and you can kind of see it bulging in the side of my leg. I'll show you someday. It's really not very exciting. Kind of has my right foot pivoting without much restriction. You can't tell it by watching me, but after analyzing this stuff, and I used to race cars, and I used to race horses, and so I'm, not really lacking in knowledge of the physical conditions of bones and tendons and stuff like that. At any rate, I think the doctor just didn't fix it because I was 50 at the time. Yeah, let's say 49 or 50. And he probably thought I was old. Well, yes, I was old, and yes, I still am old. But I'm terribly immature and didn't really want to restrict my life, I don't think, intentionally. I didn't really realize he never attached it until a couple of years later. And in the meantime, living in California, you got to work a lot of hours if you're not degreed, shall we say. And I am certainly not degreed. I made it through a year of college just to hold on to my student draft deferment while the Vietnam War rages on. And then had a chance to get out of having to worry about going to Vietnam. And the war ended. And I didn't get drafted. However, me and my friends, who were all low draft numbers, and all just kind of did the minimum we could in university or college just to make sure we got high enough grades so we went to schools and took courses we really didn't care about. And by the time we were all 22, 23, 24 years old, and figuring we were going to die in Vietnam anyways, and it was mainly a good idea to have fun until we died. And none of us ended up going to Vietnam. None of us ended up going into the Army. And as a result of that, we were ill-prepared to grow up, be adults, have families, have good retirement programs. And I'll be honest with you, none of my friends were stupid. Most of my friends were relatively smart. We went to half of us went to probably one of the best high schools in New York State. And it just was a matter of a time where a generation kind of lost its educational compass, shall I say? I think so. And so anyway, me personally, I got out and I was into racing cars and had the opportunity to make a living racing cars. I'm going to stop here and take a look and make sure this video is still rolling. And yes, it is. So we're in good shape. There goes my walker. And so I raced cars and managed racing teams and built race cars for other people and stuff like that for the period of time from, well, I'd been racing slot cars, little toy cars when I was 14 and 15 and making money at it on a professional sponsored team for one of the hobby shops and traveled around the United States, mainly the East Coast, up and down it, racing at major events. And by the time I was 17, my parents had bought me a sports car, a Triumph Spitfire, with about 1,147cc engine, so it wasn't really very fast or powerful. Couldn't do much damage, but within 6 months, I turned it into a race car, so I couldn't drive it on the street. So then I had to have them help me buy a station wagon, an old heavy Chevy, and a really cheap, crazy-ass trailer that was sensational. Just, I mean, amazingly, everybody borrowed it because it was just so neat to tow and stuff. Low center of gravity, low CFG, and had like a buttress up over the top. And so it kind of held itself up. And it would wobble and rattle, but it was a great trailer. And I think I got it for like $200 or something. And so anyways, I raced cars and hooked up with a dealership that Ferraris and Rolls Royce and Fiat and Peugeot and Alfa Romeo, and they were an Alfa East Coast racing team for Alfa Romeo. And we had some interaction with the factory, and they wanted to send me over to Italy to do some training and stuff, but I kind of switched from the mechanical end of it to the management end of it and got to do some test driving and stuff. And I was still racing my car on occasional weekends and did that for a couple of years. And then I opened up my own shop and had a few customers have me build race cars for them or modify race cars, and I like doing engine work and that sort of stuff. I wasn't much of a body man, so I'd get a couple of guys I knew to come in and shoot the paint when it was necessary, and sometimes do the final sanding because I'm ADHD and I just couldn't deal with the boredom of sanding and puttying and sanding and puttying and sanding and puttying. So anyways, I did that. And then one day I went to a pizza parlor, and the guy had a picture of racehorses, standardbred racehorses. And it said a lovely walker, my best friend. And I saw the pictures on his wall, and I said, "You race those things?" And he says, "I own them." He says, "I pay a trainer to train my horses." And he says, "I've got a couple of them." And I says, "I love to gamble." I said, "When do you go to the track?" And I'm a very forward person. I said, he was a young guy. He was in his, I'd say he was about 30 years old at the time, and he owned the pizza parlor. And I was, I'm going to say, let's say 24 at the time, more like 26. So I was about the same age. And I had long hair, and I had money because of the racing stuff. They paid me really well. And he said, well, there's my horse races tonight. I said, is it okay if I tag along? He said, sure. And so I went out to the track with him and got to the track. He introduced me to his trainer, Norm Flouet, nice young guy. He was assistant trainer for one of the major stables, and then had a little side stable on his own because his wife had just had triplets. And I said, how much does it cost to get a horse? And he said, there's horses for sale around here for $3,000 was the bottom claimer. He says, you can get them for cheaper than that. I said, I don't want cheaper. I said, I want something that can, race and win. And he says, let me see what I can find. And so I said, but $3,000? And he goes, yeah. And so I pulled out $3,000 and handed it to him in cash. And I said, get me one, please. And he kind of laughed and said that was easy. And so he got me a horse. And a horrible thing happened. It won its first race. And of course, I figured at that juncture that, you win all your races, which didn't exactly happen. And I, being a gambling kind of guy with the racing and all that, and I was racing motorcycles very poorly as well. I kind of got addicted to the gambling and winning, which was my favorite thing, and gambling and losing was my second favorite thing. And thank God I didn't have any other addictions. I never drank, I never smoked, I never did drugs. Although I had all the other trappings, everybody thought I was a big-time hippie because of my dress and my hair and some of the friends I hung out with too, to be honest. But so anyways, I had to figure out how to survive without making a lot of money through the car thing, because now I was hanging at the track all the time. And like I said, I had enough money behind me that when I say my gambling is, if you bet often enough, eventually you'll at least win once or twice. And if you money manage yourself, in other words, making small bets your first day or first race or however you divide it up, and slowly increasing the amount you bet to make sure you win back the amount you've lost subsequently to your most recent win and make the profit you're looking for, you can do okay. You can survive at it. You can make money at it. And having a horse in the races helps too, because although you're not allowed to bet against your horse, if you think your horse is going to win a particular race, you can bet some extra. And your risk is, because of your inside knowledge, a little less. So the profitability is a little more. At any rate, I did that for a couple of years, and then I got married the first time to a woman that was way beyond my capacity. I think she graduated high school when she was 15 and college when she was 19, and she was manager of a district for the Limited, which is now best known for Victoria's Secret, and for Jeffrey Epstein, having been one of the former financial managers for the organization for Les Wexner. And married her. We moved to Columbus, Ohio from Buffalo, New York. And she had a job waiting as a president of a women's clothing chain of I think there was 3 or 4 stores at the time in the Columbus area. And we leased Earl Bruce's old house. Earl Bruce was a former Ohio State football coach. So it was a pretty nice place to live in. And I went to working for a a convenience store gasoline company that had the rights to most of the additives for the state of Ohio, so that was their real money. Worked for them for a while. Got my horse trainer's license. Got divorced after 10 and a half years of marriage. Remarried, had a child while still training race horses, and started working in a equine nutrition business with a really smart guy who was really incapable as a, shall we say, personality. I mean, this guy was a freaking genius, but he just couldn't deal with your average Joe citizen. Just didn't know how to be a friend and get to be friends. And I got along with him good. I can pretty much handle anything. And so did that, had a baby with my second wife, who wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant. And if she got pregnant, wasn't supposed to be able to carry the child because she had cancer when she was 21. And she was 12 years younger than me, so at the time that we had the child, she was 32, and I was 44. Pretty old to be a first-time dad, only-time dad. And we were fine for the first 2 years of the baby's life because you're so freaking busy. And I had race horses. We lived in a place called Mansfield, Ohio, which is halfway between Cleveland and Columbus, which was pretty convenient because I ended up with 8 horses in Cleveland, which is a year-round track, Northfield Park. And hang on, we gotta kill this. Okay, still going? Yeah, it looks like it's still going. Yep. And I had, during the summers, I had 3 horses that raced better on a bigger track, which was Scioto Downs in Columbus. So when the baby was first born, I'd get up in the morning at 7 o'clock, drive to Cleveland, where I had one girl helping me, one lady helping me. And I'd jog all the horses, and she'd bathe them and do anything we had to do as far as shoeing or wrapping their legs or whatever. And then leave her with them after we fed them lunch. All she had to do was feed them dinner. And we did the stalls together. And then I'd head on down to Mansfield, which was halfway to Columbus, or about 85 miles. Have lunch with my daughter and my wife, and then drive on down to Columbus, which was another 80 miles, to Scioto Downs during the summers, and jog the 3 horses down there. And if they were in to race that night, I'd race them, and then come home by about 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. Didn't make a lot of money. Didn't have to take a second job or anything. And sold horse feed that we'd worked on with the really good quality nutrition. Good morning.
Good morning.
So anyway, it was like a nice lifestyle. And we did that till my daughter was 5 and time to start school, at which time my brother-in-law and my sister called us at Christmas time, and my daughter was going to start school the next year. And they said, we want you to move to California, and so we can watch our niece grow up. And also because my brother-in-law's business had taken off, and he was spending a lot of time working. And my sister had 3 kids, which were between 5 and 10 years older than my daughter. And my sister didn't really have any family in town or any family anywhere. And so they said we just rebuilt our house. And in the meantime, we were living in another house. It's 3 bedrooms and 1.5 baths. And I think it'd be perfect for you. And you come out and live in it for basically free or whatever you can afford if you can afford anything. And I told my brother-in-law, well, I love the idea. It sounds great. I'd really like my daughter to get out of Ohio because it's not really, as far as I was concerned at the time, I don't know how it is now because I'm not there, and I don't like to judge. But at the time, it wasn't a great place for a little girl to grow up. It was very white boy centric. And she was white, but she was a girl. And had a bit of personality and smart girl. And I said, I really can't afford to drive twice around the block, much less rent a truck and drive to California. And he said, how long would it cost? How much would it cost to get you here? And I said, I don't know, $3,000 to rent a truck and drive across the country. And he said, okay, I'll send you a check for $5,000. He said, that way you can have a little fun on the way. And at the time I was managing a office of a auto repair shop for a friend of mine. Wasn't making a lot of money, but it was close by the apartment. And I kind of scaled back the horses and only had 3, and we were living in Columbus by then. And so I said, when's everything going to be ready? He said, why don't you arrive here 4th of July at noon? And that was in 2002. So that's what we did. We came to California, and I eventually hooked on with a job which didn't pay me enough to pay rent, but they were doing really good financially, so I didn't feel too bad about it. And but we were able to live okay. My daughter didn't suffer from being poor because we didn't have to pay rent, but there wasn't a lot of money left over to do things for my wife and myself. And as the years went on, we grew farther and farther apart. Not bad, didn't hate each other, we're mad at each other, but just had nothing in common. And eventually, after 20 years, well, after 15 years, and some infidelity on my part, not with relationships, but with professional girls that dated for a living, shall we say, to be polite. She and I came to a mutual agreement that when our daughter graduated high school, my daughter was in on this because, like I said, she was very smart, very perceptive, knew what was going on. And we approached her and said, we want to get a divorce. I'll still be living in the house, and your mom is going to find other accommodations, and I'm going to help her financially. And she said, she was like towards the end of sophomore year in school, high school. And she said, would you guys mind staying together till I graduate high school? It'll be just a better timing thing for me. And I said, well, I don't hate your mom or nothing. I don't think she hates me too much. And I said, we can hang together. I can hang together if she can. And she said that was fine. But she said, I'm probably going to move out. And she was starting to see guys. And I said, well, that's fine. I said, you're welcome to come back anytime. And, our daughter is still living with me. So she'd, stop in basically every day and just didn't sleep there anymore, except on rare occasion. Her room was still her room. And after my daughter graduated high school, we had a very amiable divorce. There were, I think, 5 couples getting divorced in the It was like an agreed upon divorce settings where everybody that was there had, decided they didn't want to contest each other's viewpoints. And my ex and I had the judge, the other couples, and the lawyers rolling in the aisles. I'm very funny, especially when I get nervous or hurt. And my now ex-wife was a very good straight woman to my humor, as somebody would be after 20 years of marriage and really about 10 years of incongruity. Okay, I'm going to end my little journey right here. As I've said, the walker, I can walk fine without it. I really can. But I walk much more carefully. I don't walk as fast. And this has me a lot of stability and a lot of confidence. It has brakes on it. So I really am hunched over. Now my fingers are a little numb. My arms are a little sore because I lean on it a bit. And I try to forget that and walk up a little tighter and bend my elbows so that I'm doing more with my leg. But at any rate, it's a really handy thing. If you're going to rehab yourself or you're older and you want to get walking more, like I said, I'm 73. My fiance in the Dominican Republic is 27. We've been long distance relationship for 9 years and engaged for, I think the first time we were engaged is 7 years ago. And then the time when I told her, I really think you need to find somebody, and she told me at that juncture, after thinking about it for a few hours, she said, nah, she says, you need to marry me. She says, you're have proven your value in my life, and I've fallen in love with you. And so that was, I think, 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. So anyways, I'm sticking around here right now because we're still building our 2-bedroom apartment on the roof of her parents' house. And I can live cheaply here, and I'm very useful because my granddaughter is in kindergarten, afternoon kindergarten. And so me being here allows my daughter to pick and choose the moments that she works, because she does respite with younger children for parents. And also she manages, she's writing music for a band. And she's she's got 11, 12 years of music theory. And she's a really good singer, and she's a really good recording engineer. So this gives her an opportunity to fit in wherever the band needs her. Like they'll call her up and say, can you come over for 2 hours and help us write or work on a song for us so that we can have some input in. And so it's really nice because I'm always there with baby. He's going to be 6 this summer. But at any rate, she has a birthday in July, end of July, at which time she'll be 6. And then a couple of weeks later, she'll start kindergarten or first grade, at which time she's in school full time. And once she's in school full time, I'm not really going to be that needed. Her dad, my son-in-law, works managing night shift at a grocery store right across the street from where we live. So he's working basically 11 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, 5 days a week. And so he's around the apartment. And we've got 2 cars now, so I'll leave my car with them. And so he can pick her up from school. When she gets off at 3, he'll have had enough sleep by then. And then my daughter will be in and out of the house by 5, or some days she doesn't even work, so she'll be there the whole time. So I'm not really going to be needed as much starting next August as I am right now. And at that juncture, our 2-bedroom apartment, we'll call it our home, on the roof of her parents' house. And her parents are 20 years younger than me. But they've been really cool about stuff. And I'm helping build a place that she'll have to live for the rest of her life. Obviously, if our relationship doesn't work out, she's going to get the house. I mean, it's built on their roof. As an American, I don't even know if I can own anything in the Dominican Republic, but it's really not important to me. I started with her because I didn't want to marry the girls that I was hanging with here, and without having a current marriage going on, it was really handy to be able to tell them, well, I'm involved with somebody else, and so they could keep their present position. Like, by the way, as soon as we started, I told her to text me once a month, tell me how school was going, and I'd pay for her school, which is $100 a month. And from that day forward, she texted me every day. I'm sure there was a certain part of it in the beginning that was just keeping close touch with me so that she didn't lose her deal with me paying for her school. But as the years progressed, it became very apparent that she looked forward to talking to me, and that talking to me was a big part of her life. And I did things for her, like gave her braces so she could flirt with other guys, and she had a crooked tooth, and smile. And, putting her through college means she didn't need me or another guy. She has a degree in child psychology, which will be very handy being married to me because I'm 14 years old, in spite of the birth certificate saying I'm 73. And, man, for 9.5 years, I didn't see anybody. She'd asked, do I have to, send you pictures or anything? Because probably would have been a deal breaker because as shy as she is. And I said, no, I've got girls for that, and I'm going to continue to see them, and I expect you to find the right guy for you. But while you're looking for him, you won't have to pay for your college. And after 4 years, she still had a year and a half to go because COVID kind of screwed up the school schedule. I told her if she found somebody else, I'd still pay for the rest of her college education. But when she said no, she didn't want to find anybody else, and she said the guys over there cheat, and she didn't like the pressure of that, and she's shy and didn't want to spend time meeting other guys, and she's a very pretty young lady, and smart, and has a great heart, and loves children. And the only thing she said to me is, she says, I want 3 kids. And she says, is that okay with you? And I said, yeah, I'll be glad to father 3 children and love them and care for them and live there and try to learn Spanish, which I know nothing of, and she doesn't know any English. We decided what we'd learn in the schools would not really be applicable to the way we would talk in our real lives. So we said when I got there, she'd teach me English or Spanish, and I'd teach her English as much as necessary. And we couldn't argue because we don't speak each other's languages. We couldn't fight. So it seemed like a really good deal. Anywho, I'll leave it at that. I'll probably come and walk again later on in the afternoon to get the rest of my 2 miles in. I'm guessing I did about a mile there. And have a great Saturday. I'm a big Ohio State Buckeyes fan, and I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. Buffalo's having a tough time of it. They're still a very good team, much better than I spent most of my life loving, so I'm not complaining. And Ohio State Buckeyes, I think they could beat half of the pro teams that exist right now. So go Bucks and beat Rutgers. Have a great day. Talk to you later.